right. It's been a long time coming, but Brad Lambert, finally have you on the podcast to chat. We've messaged back and forth for quite a while, and I'm excited to dive into getting to know you a little bit better here. How are you?
Doing well, man. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful. Excited to talk to you. Want to dive into a lot of different topics with you today that we've kind of shot back and forth. But want to start off with, for those of the listeners who may
Yeah,
not know you, tell us like who you are. Who is Brad Lambert? What do you do?
I'm just a guy. I'm
Just a
just a
guy.
man making my way through the galaxy. Um, no, I mean I love sports. I love entertainment. I started off in the sports industry, working with a lot of professional teams and professional athletes, servicing as like a producer of sorts for content, social media, management, and a marketing sense of helping with endorsements and just trying to help these guys on and off the field. I'm from Pittsburgh, so a lot of that work was done with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the guys on the team. I've been around that organization since like 2005, 2006, which is as a fan and as a Pittsburgher myself, like that. It's an honor. I mean, to be around those guys and to have genuine relationships with them on and off the field, even after they hang up the cleats and they're done forever. Willie Parker is a guy I met when I was in high school, and we're still really close to this day. I'm Uncle Brad to his kids. We've grown up together. I mean, it was and he's been retired since like 2010. So it's like that's it's bigger than the business. It's bigger than money. It's bigger than the sport. It's genuine relationships, which I talk about all the time on podcasts and at my speaking engagements. But I was in the sports industry a really long time, and then I had the opportunity to come out to Los Angeles. And my dear friend Jimmy Rich gave me the opportunity to kind of get my feet wet in the entertainment industry, working with Team Downey and Robert Downey Jr. And that was my shotgun intro to the industry. I learned every baseline thing you could possibly learn, from script analysis to script coverage to production. And it was a very short term opportunity with the intent to be used as a springboard for me to go somewhere else. So I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I learned so much from a lot of really talented, amazing people. And then I went to Warner Brothers for a few years and worked on the marketing campaigns for TV, film, and catalog titles, which was awesome because that was like my first time really dealing with huge IPs that I love, like,
Yeah.
Harry Potter and, DC. And, that was just
So you're
awesome.
the guy to blame for DC and
Nope,
everything.
definitely not. Don't do that. Um, but it was cool to kind of be the guy behind the scenes working on some of these campaigns and creatively putting my touch on it, as well as from a business standpoint. And a lot of the stuff that you saw coming out of social media, I worked on some campaigns that I'm sure many of you have seen, which was really cool to just be a small cog in that machine and trying to help make things happen. So that was really cool, and it was a great mix of business and creative for me in that role. So I really kind of found myself as a producer in a lot of ways of handling the business side and also having a creative element to it. So I was there for a few years, and then I've been on my own ever since, and doing a lot of consulting, speaking. I love speaking. Whatever I can do or say to impact somebody's life in a positive way. Um, why not? And I'm not up here saying do ABC, make $1 million. I'm not one of those people. Up here saying do ABC, and you're going to put yourself in a really good position to be successful and happy. And I think happiness is in short supply in today's world. So I think a lot of people need to kind of refocus where they're looking and focus on what matters.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. You are a Pittsburgh fan, and as a Philadelphia fan, there's nothing worse that you can hear on a podcast. But we'll set that aside. Going from the sports industry to the
Yeah.
television industry, was there a major shift there for you? Are they two like vastly different environments?
I mean, in obvious ways, yes, but in other ways, no. Each industry has their own unique wrinkles, so to speak. But it was a easier transition because I wasn't coming out to LA to flex being in film and jump right into production like I went to film school, but I brought my business and marketing experience,
Sure.
to LA, and that's where I provided that value wherever I was, while simultaneously learning the ins and outs of Hollywood and production and, trying to get better and grow in that space. And I'm still doing that. So, like I said, when I really found myself as a producer, um, my skill set and my experience and what I'm good at really lended itself to that. And that's where, even for the last few years, that's where my focus has been, trying to get more and more involved in producing film and TV. And, I've been working on a TV concept that is like my baby. And I'm really hopeful that I can get some legs on it and get it going here in the next year, 2, 3. But, it's everything that I do is with the intent to make people better and make the world better and bring some positivity into a space that is severely lacking.
Yeah. And we're going to get to that because you are one of the most positive people on social
Thanks,
media, in
man.
my opinion. And I've said that to you multiple times before,
I
so I'm not just
appreciate
blowing
that.
smoke right here. So, Brad, the other reason or another way that some might be familiar is a couple, year and a half ago, allegations were levied towards you from different content creators and social media individuals, influencers, if you will, that made some headlines. And then more recently, you've had a couple articles that came out from Nikki Swift. You've had over 1 million impressions on the most recent one on Twitter, where you've sort of gotten your story out there.
Yeah,
Not interested in resurrecting the whole story and
sure.
really getting into the drama, but want to know how you're doing with it all.
Yeah, man. I mean, transparently, that took me to a very dark place. I was, at suicide's door in a lot of ways. Didn't really want to be here anymore. I saw my entire life get destroyed overnight, and there was really no grounds for it, or reasons for it, or deservingly so. It was just it was a nightmare on an endless loop for almost all of 2022. Um, so now mentally, I'm much better. Sadly, when you go through trauma like that, your body's impacted, and my health has been impacted in a lot of ways. So mentally, I'm doing a lot better. I'm working on the overall health element of it, but I'm happy that I was able to get my story out, and people can see the truth of the matter. And I'm grateful for a guy like Boss Logic who came out with me and made a statement saying like the whole situation was rather unnecessary and it should have been handled offline and with a conversation instead of a very public smear campaign. So I respect him a lot for doing the right thing and showing maturity and class. And I've always had respect for that guy. He's one of the most talented artists in the space right now.
Absolutely.
And he we're following each other on social media again and chumming it up in DMs and comment sections. And life's too short, man. Like it's far too short to be spending your time trying to bring other people down. And especially, to this level, it's just not necessary. So I'm just glad that, it's all been put to bed and, everybody can just move on with their lives, which is what I wanted to do kind of when this all started back in, November of 21. But, like I said, it was just an awful traumatic experience, and I'm glad we're in a new year, and I wish all of them nothing but the best. And I'm just trying to move forward with my life. And I put that article out more for me to say what I needed to say. Never in a million years would I have thought that it would have blown up the way that it did. 1 million plus impressions on Twitter, and it made its rounds. But it's it was an unfortunate situation that was unnecessary, like Boss Logic said. So I'm just glad, he's doing well, and people are moving forward, and we can just all, move forward with our lives and hopefully find some health and happiness and, be better. So
Absolutely. Yeah, that's at the end of the day, that's all we can do, right? Is try to
yeah.
just try to be better. I mentioned you're a positive guy, and this obviously had to have taken a toll on that positivity. But what is coming out of it, and sitting there today in January of 2023, what did you take from that? Where are you at in terms of the positivity and being able to get back to the Brad from prior? How do you kind of rebound from that?
I mean, in a lot of ways, I had this conversation with someone yesterday, but like I'm still the same guy.
Yeah,
Like, I am who you see online. I am who you meet in person. I don't play a character. This isn't a facade. So the Brad prior to November of 21, I'm still him. I have a lot more bumps and bruises and scars now and trauma. But, they say whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stronger, right? So this took me to a level that I found a resiliency that I didn't know existed. I mean, I really didn't want to be here
Yeah.
anymore. I mean, and I was very lucky to have some of my closest, obviously, family was huge in keeping me above water, and I found who my friends are, and that's a lesson that you don't really know who your friends really are until things go bad. In the darkest times and the toughest situations, you will see who your friends are. And I want people to understand that because, I feel like we need to normalize labeling people as acquaintances and contacts and coworkers and colleagues because, it's a privilege to be labeled as a friend.
Mhm.
And I feel like we are in a space now in society that we give that label out very easily, um, because it's sexy or cool to call someone a friend. But it should be earned with time. It should be earned with effort and consistency and like trust. Like that's just flat out. So, I learned a lot. A lot of people that I held near and dear, a lot of people that I considered some of my best friends in the industry, turned their backs on me without a conversation. And it really shined a light on I truly believe there's a vast majority of people here in the industry whose loyalty is solely dependent upon the value that you bring to them or how much you kiss their ass. And the second one of those two things stop, so does their loyalty.
Yeah.
And it's a level of just cowardice that you know I don't understand because that's not me. But it's sad. It's disheartening to see loyalty change on a dime. But opportunists will do what they need to do to get ahead and protect their brand instead of what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And you're never wrong for doing the right thing. And that is like you know that's the realist,
Yeah.
the realist thing I can say because it's sad that, we've come to a place that, it's all about getting ahead in life and, it makes me sad to see just how frivolous relationships are now when in reality you might have held something very close to you or it meant a lot to you and then all of a sudden, you know,
Gone.
people look at you like a stranger and
Yep.
through that situation, I really felt like Peter Parker at the end of No Way Home, because people that I knew, I would lock eyes with them and they would look right through me like I didn't exist. And, it would be a fair excuse if Doctor Strange did the spell to wipe their memory, but we all know that's not the case. So it's even more pathetic. But, I a quote that I love, to know what is right and choose to ignore it is the act of a coward. Um, so, at the end of the day, like I said, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. Um, and, you know, I think you have to have a lot of courage and integrity to get one's foot out of your own mouth. But, some people would rather just throw a relationship in the trash instead of trying to fix it because it's easier. But at the end of the day, it's like I said, I've really found out who my people are, the integrity of the people around me, who's real, who's not, and the red flags are way bigger now. So my awareness, I feel like Sherlock Holmes in Game of Shadows, where she's like, "What do you see?" and he's like, "I see everything. That is my curse," and that's how I feel. And it's a dark cloud that kind of follows me everywhere because it's something that I really don't want to see, but now I see
Yeah.
every day, every interaction, and it weighs on you, man. And I've always been a guy that sees the best in people. I see the best version of people, which I think made me a good, talent consultant in a lot of ways, working with athletes and influencers and seeing the best version of them. And helping coach them and get opportunities for them so they could be the best versions of themselves, and I think that's what made me good with talent, and that won't change in trying to help people. I had a conversation with a young aspiring media personality yesterday, and I was giving him just out of pocket advice and
Mhm.
and things that I saw that I thought would work well for him and a friend of his, and he was like, "Oh my God, I never even thought of that. That's
Right.
amazing. Thank you." But it like I said, it's not like I didn't send him a bill, It's just like, I want to see you win, man.
Yeah.
That's always been me, and always will be. And it just it's been a tough time. But like you said, I mean, how do I maintain positivity? Well, being negative isn't going to help anything. And if I were negative through that situation, uh, I don't know if I would be here. I mean, because that was a dire, bad situation. Um, so for me, it's you got to maintain positivity, because even through your darkest times, you have the opportunity to be a light for somebody else. And that was how I handled myself. And I will always do that, because there's no value in me dumping my garbage on you.
Yeah.
I have a responsibility for the platform that I do have, and it's not huge, but I still have a decent sized platform, and I know that there's a responsibility for what I put out there, because I am influencing the younger demographic, or I can have an impact on somebody else's day, right? So there's a responsibility there that I acknowledge, and with great power comes great responsibility. I had to do it. I'm sorry, but that's
Thanks
the
for
thing,
coming.
that
You said
you know,
something to me offline prior to this that I think rings true in what you're saying right now, is that at the end of the day, you know who you are. And
yeah.
I think, in asking that question a few minutes ago of, pre this incident to now, I think that's one thing that just in our short conversations with one another, I can tell has continued to stay true.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I mean, and at the end of the day, like, with time, people show you who they are, And I've been working actively since I was like 16, 17 years old. So who I am is established, contrary to public creative narratives, So I know who I am, and beyond the drama, people know who I am.
Absolutely.
And time will show, who people are. And the best compliment that I've received since moving to LA and Hollywood was, "You've never changed. You're still the same
That's
guy."
great.
And people who move out here and get involved in the space and change very quickly, I think that says all you need to know. But my thing is, I just saw Babylon, and that movie is absurd on multiple levels. But I loved how they depicted Hollywood. They nailed the industry to a T. And granted, it was more flamboyant and over the top, but the key themes of this industry were right there. Margot Robbie's character was the I just want to be famous. I'm already famous. I have an ego. I'm a narcissist. I just want to be famous. I don't care what I have to do to get there. I don't feel like repercussions are going to come my way. I'm just going to live my life to the fullest because I'm a star. You know, there are
Yeah.
more than enough of those in the space. Then you have Manny's character, who just wanted to be part of something bigger. And he was just along for the ride, and he wanted to live his passions. And you saw when he began to cut corners and cut aspects of his moral compass, and he progressively started to go downhill and change from the person that we met at the very beginning. And then he got into the situation that he got into, which ruined his entire career by making poor choices and cutting corners and playing dirty. Um, and then he ended up leaving LA and, settling down and having a family. But that moment of him in the theater crying, I mean, that was him not, "I'm happy" cry. This is, "I ruined the best thing that I've ever had." And that's powerful. You had Sid, who is the brilliant musician, who was out here just trying to live his life too. But when he saw he had to really cut corners on who
Mhm.
he is and his character and his values, he threw it all away. He said, "Screw this," and he left. And then he went on to live a good life because he refused to play that game. Powerful. And then you had, Brad Pitt's character, who was an actor, who sadly combined his value as a human to his career, which I see now a lot in the influencer community. Is, without my platform, I'm nothing,
Yeah.
and I need it, and if I don't have it, I'm done. And what people need to understand is social media is a tool, and it could disappear tomorrow. So you have to leverage that tool for as long as you have, and when it goes away, it goes away, and you have to pivot and do something else. But like I fear for the people and the young kids and the young professionals who tie their value as a human to their social media, which
Yeah,
is dangerous.
absolutely.
And for anyone who saw Babylon, you know what I'm talking about. So it's, you know, I want, you know, whoever's listening, you're more than your social media, and social media is a tool for business, for life, but it's not who you are. And if you are tying yourself to social media, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're setting yourself up for heartache and pain, because Frank, you know, the government's already talking about banning TikTok off the face of the earth.
Yep.
So, you know, right there, you just accept what is, you know, and
Sure.
and take care of yourself, because you're bigger, and you have more value than these social platforms. And you know, just your health and your well-being is more important. Just take that.
There's that coaching, Brad, that you mentioned a few minutes ago with that guy yesterday. I hadn't heard you use that term before, but that's 100% like your wheelhouse.
Oh, thanks, man. I
Definitely
mean,
a coach.
look, I don't claim to know everything, but there are a few subjects that I have good knowledge on, and I just try to give 2 cents, and you can take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, it all comes from a place of just trying to help people. And
Yep.
like I said, you know, a year before that crazy stuff happened, I was featured in the Pittsburgh Post Gazette, which is the biggest outlet in Pittsburgh, which is a major city. And it was a full spread, and it said, "Meet Brad Lambert, the Hollywood talent manager who makes dreams come true." And that was the greatest honor that I could have gotten. It's on my wall right here.
That's awesome.
And it featured 5 people who've known me collectively for over 50 years. That's 50. And they gave detailed stories and experiences on just who I am, which is someone who will always, you know, try to help and create opportunities and lend a helping hand. And that was the, like I said, the greatest honor I could have gotten, to be seen like that. Like truly, like, I mean, they nailed it of who I am, and these people who've known me for that long know who I am, and know like what gets me out of bed in the morning, and that's to have a positive impact on people around me, and to leave people better than I found them. And my track record shows that, you
Yeah.
know. So I just, you know, that hasn't changed personally and professionally. I mean, I'm constantly trying to help people and be a light, and you know, now even more so.
It's good to hear. That's very good to hear. You mentioned social media, and that's kind of where I want to segue into now,
Sure.
talking about the impact of social media on the industry itself. So, talking about film and television in particular, but also, you know, one of the things that is constantly coming up in one of the critics groups I'm involved in is this conversation of critics versus influencers, or influencers versus XYZ. And the fact that a lot of people just don't know what bucket to put influencers in, that
Yeah.
it's, you know, really kind of this newfangled thing that started a couple years ago really and took on prominence and has become careers or whatnot. But you've been involved with the influencer community, you've been involved in other levels of the industry. How do you see the onset of influencers, as well as the onset of platforms like TikTok and other social media platforms impacting the industry?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's very self-explanatory of the value of social media.
Yeah.
The views, the impressions. The studios now are fully immersed in creating, you know, opportunities for influencers to come to early screenings or go to the premieres, because they know like they're going to create content and push it out, and it's essentially free marketing. So it's just going to get bigger and more involved. But on the critic side of things, you know, the established critics who have been in the business for 20, 30 years, who are old school, you know, newspaper articles, or
Right.
even now digital articles that you read online. It is a scary trend that you see, because they are more of old school Hollywood, and now you see these new age, you know, influencers and people with platforms who, once again, they bring value. You know, you can't ignore the impressions. At the end of the day, it's a quality business, though, so you have to make sure that the quality that is being put out is beneficial to the studios or whatever project it is. So, you know, if you're putting out trash and it's reaching millions of people, that's not helpful. So it's finding a happy balance between quality and quantity, and the benefits that social media can bring. So, like I said earlier, TikTok could disappear tomorrow. We don't know, but something will come right in and take its place. I don't foresee Instagram going anywhere. Twitter is very rocky right now. YouTube will never go away. And I had a conversation with that young professional yesterday talking on YouTube, and I just kind of said, like, don't neglect it, because sooner or later the industry is going to catch up and acknowledge the value and impressions of a YouTube reaction or a YouTube review from a critic standpoint. And like I said, I think a lot of people are afraid to acknowledge these changes because they might not be able to get with the times, so to speak. Um, so for me, it's just you got to have your finger on the pulse of what's happening, and just put quality out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things that I think is turning a lot of people away from certain social media platforms in general is toxicity. And, we touched on this a little bit, but, we see it a lot it's all over TikTok. It's all over Twitter. Facebook, I think, had its day with toxicity and probably still does in a lot of ways, but
Sure.
it's not the most popular out there anymore. Can you talk about that a little bit with toxicity and the influencer kind of kingdom there, as well as on social media, and I guess where we go from here with it?
I mean, I've seen a really just a sad, disheartening trend of, people think it's funny or cool to be mean on social media, to just literally just be mean,
Mhm.
for the sake of being mean. I think there's a lot that we can learn. I do think law, from a legal standpoint, needs to update because, if I walk up to you in the street and punch you in the face, that's assault, right?
Mhm.
But people are assaulting people, with DMs and comments and stuff very regularly. And it's just wrong, and they feel like there's no repercussions that can come from that. And like I said, you have influencers and people of influence in that space who are creating cases for things that shouldn't be glorified, and making that this is cool, so do this thing. And it's scary to see who's influencing the younger demographic in the next generation, because some of these people should not have the platforms they have because of the narratives that they're spewing or the themes that they're spewing,
Sure.
and glorifying negativity, glorifying hatefulness, glorifying being mean because it's haha, it's funny, it's cool. It's not, and you don't really understand the impact that you have on other people, until sadly, it gets to a point where someone kills themselves or someone's in the hospital, or, someone's suffering from severe depression due to the abuse that they consistently get on social media.
Mhm.
And it's sad that we have to get to that drastic level to see the impact that, our words and actions can have on people. And that's something that I think is just, we need to get reins on it and really get control over it before it gets further out of control. Because life's hard enough. I mean, it is so difficult, and we shouldn't be making it more difficult on other people just
Yeah,
because we think it's cool or we're doing it to make ourselves feel better. And that's coming from like an audience standpoint, right?
absolutely.
The viewers. As far as like influencer culture goes, it's so fake. It's so competitive. It's so insecure. You literally have some of the most insecure people on the planet, who are like, love me, like me, support me because they don't like themselves. Narcissism is a pandemic in that space. And granted, narcissists are deeply insecure people, so they go hand in hand. But it is a very toxic space, and I have friends I see on Twitter all the time who are like, I hate this space because loyalty changes on a dime for
Mhm.
opportunity. If they get a sense that you're getting ahead of them, they're gonna try to tear you down. When it's like there's enough food at the table for everybody, and I
Absolutely.
really believe that like what's meant for you will be for you, right? So
Yeah.
if you're going up against someone else for an opportunity, if it's meant for you, you'll get it. And if you're not, that doesn't make you feel less than. That doesn't mean you're not important or not good. It just you weren't fit for that opportunity, and that's fine. But if you go back to, you know, acting, just in general, you'll get no's a billion times before you get a yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, like, in the influencer culture, which is very entitled, I'm entitled to XYZ because I have 500,000 followers. There are 500,000 other creators who have 500,000 followers. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you're not, unless you're at the, like, you know, Liza Koshy, Logan Paul, Mr. Beast level of influencers, you shouldn't be carrying yourself as such.
Yeah,
It's just, once again, it's a tool, it's not your identity. Leverage the platforms for what you have to move your career without leaving bodies behind you, and, live your best life, and understand that you have a responsibility with the size of the platform that you do have. If you have 3 million followers, you are impacting a whole lot of people. So you need to make sure what you're putting out is going to benefit people and not make the world worse off because of it. And that's, I feel like a lot of people are very reckless with the big platforms that they have because they just don't care.
yeah,
And, I hate the fact that you see creators go toe to toe and they're ripping each other's throats out, and just, nice in public, nasty behind the scenes. It's a very fake space. And it is toxic. And honestly, I'm glad that I'm not as active in that space. I'm much more happy.
yeah,
I'm much more healthy, um, because it just, once again, I don't have it in my bones to be fake. I may be a lot of things, but a fake bitch ain't one. That's just the reality of it. So I understand that, and I'm so okay with that. That I don't fit in this industry because I do not have the capacity to be a chameleon, and shapeshift for opportunities. And if I don't like you, I'm not associating with you. Like, I don't care who you are, I don't care how famous you are, how many followers you have, what I can get from you. I don't associate with you. I'm not friends with you, and I wish you well. I'm not going to associate. Like, it's
right,
just not, it's not who I am. I mean, my character and my integrity, I just, how I was raised was to be authentic and genuine and real. And real is in short supply in this space and in this industry. So, that's been a huge, realization, over the past few years. And once again, I really, you find yourself, you find your crowd, you find who your people are in that, and you find out who you want to be. And I refuse to play the game that most people play.
yeah,
And I just, and that will probably be a detriment to me and my success and my progress, because I refuse to do that. I will not cut corners. I will not chop people's legs off to get ahead. I am an elevator. I will elevate the people around me. I will help. And if someone gets more famous or more successful than me, good for them. Like,
yeah.
if I can be a very small part of that, what's better than impacting somebody's life in a positive way? Nothing.
It's a shame with creators, and especially those who you may meet through social media, whether we want to go the influencer route there. When I feel like when I meet them in person, I'm always hesitant, and I'm
You should
wondering,
be.
am I who's this person going to be? And I've
Yeah.
I've lucked out in a lot of ways, but there's always some of those cases because social media and this influencer culture, I feel like I've seen kind of what you alluded to. Their personalities become their social media become their personalities, but then that also transform their personalities to something that maybe they weren't before, or maybe something that they never had an outlet for before, that is not necessarily the most positive.
Well, on this note, man, I've been in LA and in Hollywood for almost 9, 10 years now. And the second you step foot out here, you see how competitive it is.
Yeah,
If you don't have 10,000 followers, you can't come to this party or this event. If your daddy's not, high in a studio, you can't be part of a crowd. You're at lunch or brunch with somebody, and you hear the table next to you is like, I just made $4 million on NFTs yesterday. It is, and if you're not mentally tough and comfortable in your own shoes and where you're at in life, that can very much weigh on you. And
sure.
if you're comparing yourself to the people around you or other people in the space, it can weigh on you to the point where you start cutting corners and changing your moral compass to get ahead, to try to catch up to these people that you're comparing yourself to. And in doing so, you're losing yourself. And that's something, like I said, I refuse to do. But I hate that other people feel the need to do that. It's sad. It's disheartening because, there are good people out here who just feel the weight of the industry, and if I don't do this in this time, I'm a failure. If I don't get ahead at this time, I've lost, and it's just, it's sad because it's, you're going to hear more no's than yeses. You're going to fail more times than you succeed,
Mhm.
especially in this industry. Like it's, you get what you pay for, you get what you sign up for. And when you come out here, that's the business. And it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for the weak minded. And, a lot of people leave. And if I'm being honest, man, after what I've experienced and the people that I've experienced and just the way I've seen how the industry actually works, I don't necessarily want to stay here anymore, you know? And for
I'm
someone who
surprised
can't,
you're still there, Brad.
well,
Honestly.
leases will do that. Um, but no, in all seriousness, it is not a fun place to be. When you get away from the glitz and the glam, and you really, for years I had blinders on, man,
Yeah.
because I was looking at just work. That was my passion. That was my focus. My personal life wasn't important. Dating wasn't important. It was just business and just trying to establish myself financially and otherwise to where I could breathe. Right. That was my goal. It wasn't to get famous or anything like that. It was just to get to a place where, I was comfortable. And I had steady growth, man. Like from the moment I got out here, it was consistent growth. It wasn't anything to brag about or flex or anything, but the progress, little baby wins, add up to big results.
Yeah.
But like I said, staying out here, it's now that I don't have the blinders because my work was thrown into a blender and my career and life rather, you really see things clearly. And it's a space that, I've spent a lot of time in Florida, Orlando, love Disney. And it's a change of pace. It's I feel much happier and less anxiety and I get why people leave, but it's that shouldn't deter you from chasing your dreams. But you have to understand that, like, you have to come out here and you have to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, don't come out here.
Yeah.
And beyond that, things aren't going to go your way. You're going to fail. And you either have to accept that and be able to brush it off and keep going, or it's just not for you. And that's okay. But it's, like I said, I've always wanted to be someone that if I could say something that inspires someone or helps someone in some way, shape, or form, that I've done my job. And there's no more gratification that you could ask for in helping someone get on a path that they could achieve their dreams
Yeah.
and be who they want to be. But it's a tough place to be, man. It's disheartening. It's sad. It's fake. It's um, like I said, failure. And if you can't deal with that, it's going to be a rough go for you. But, I loved the industry, up until, so, now it's trying to figure out where I'm at, what path I want to go, what I want to do with my life and who I want to be. And there may be some changes, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, man, my focus is so clear now. It's health, happiness, and peace. And I really didn't have any of those three things in the last year and a half. And when you don't have them, you realize how much you need them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your comments about Orlando ring true. That's why I go down there about 5 times a year, and we'll be going down in a week and a half.
Good. Enjoy that, bro.
Just for a quick 3-day trip. Just
Hey, Guardians at Epcot, the best ride I've ever
haven't
been
done it
on.
yet. Haven't done it yet.
It is the best ride I've ever been on, and nothing compares.
You're
Nothing.
the second person to tell me that in a week, so I
It's the
definitely need
best
to
ride. It's the
check
best
it
ride
out.
ever. Yeah, and if you get conga, demand to get off the ride.
Oh no, I might like that. I
No,
think I
you
watched
won't.
a ride through yesterday of
You
Conga.
need September.
There you go.
That's the banger.
So, Brad, putting a nice bow on this conversation about sort of the industry and influencer culture and all of that. If someone's watching this and they are someone who thinks they want to go to LA, they have the plan, they think they have a plan, they think they know where they
Right.
want to go and all that. What's the one good piece of advice that you would tell them right now? Like, something to remember as they make that transition.
Um, Make a plan, have a plan, throw away the plan. That's a line from The Flash.
Yep.
But I just stay true to who you are. Uh, and the second you sacrifice elements of yourself, then you're going to do it again.
Yeah.
So really stay true to you, stay true to your values, stay true to what makes you you. Don't let people bully you into becoming somebody else. Don't let the pressures of the industry change you into someone you're not. And stop comparing yourself to other people, because that, like, it's just not going to happen. It's just not fair. The added stress and pressure that you're putting on yourself. But, like, be patient. You have to have a great relationship with patience if you want to be successful out here.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've grown into being very good at. And um, it's a very good skill set to have, because hurry up and wait is the industry, and entitlement and impatience are not good combinations for that. um, so I just think, come out here, focus on what you want, uh, focus on your plan of action. Understand that little baby wins add up to big results. The consistency at which you're growing is important, not the speed, the consistency. And just mind who you're surrounding yourself with, and really have your eyes open, and just be very cognizant of what's happening around you and who's around you, and you know just be smart.
I asked for one piece of advice, and you gave a synopsis for like a future Brad Lambert book that you could write, which is
Oh,
great.
hey man, my best friend since high school is like, I can't wait for that book. And I'm just like, hey man, the chapters are getting better and better each year. So, um, you know, and that, it's you'll have bumps and bruises in life. You'll have failures, you'll have setbacks, but it's how you respond to those, events that will, tell you who you are.
Yeah,
And it's, I said this to you off camera, but the hero and the villain aren't that different. And one thing separates the hero from the villain, and it's how they deal with pain. And I heard this quote on a podcast with Lewis Howes, and the man says, when the villain experiences pain, they say, because I experienced this pain, everybody else is going to experience this pain. And when the hero experiences pain, he says, because I experienced this pain, nobody else is going to experience this pain. And that's the difference between a hero and a villain, is how they deal with pain. Um, and that's the truest thing you'll hear all day.
I can't disagree with that, and I definitely appreciate you being so open about talking about all this and just your experiences.
Yeah.
But before we wrap, why don't we get into some fun conversation? Does that sound
Yeah.
good?
Yeah, sure.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I know you're not a big Marvel guy. There's nothing on camera right now that would tell me that.
What's
Uh,
Marvel again?
for those that are listening and not watching, there's an Avengers hat, Avengers poster, and an Iron Man 3 poster. Is that?
Yes. Yeah.
What are your thoughts with Ant-Man? What are you expecting? What are you hoping for?
I'm excited. I mean, I love Jonathan Majors.
Yeah,
I think he is the next Denzel Washington. I mean, the dude is talented beyond belief. So I'm beyond excited to see him back, and in true form as Kang the Conqueror. We got a version of him in Loki, which was amazing. But now, wait until you meet my variants, and we're gonna get that. And from what I've seen in the trailers, the costume is amazing, the looks amazing,
yeah.
and he's beating the ever living shit out of Ant-Man. So I've said I don't see how Scott gets out of this alive, but I do believe it's going to be very reminiscent of Hulk in Infinity War, where Heimdall just gets him out of there barely. Um, I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day about this. I think Hank is going to make like a sacrifice, and that is going to give Scott the window of opportunity to get out of the quantum realm, and that's how it's going to end. Um, he's barely going to escape. But I would not be surprised if there are multiple deaths in this film,
Yeah.
whether it's Wasp, Hank, Michelle Pfeiffer's character. Like, it just I feel like shit's really going to hit the fan, and it should, because we're setting up King Dynasty. We're setting up the next big bad in the MCU. And I couldn't be more excited for Jonathan Majors as Kang, and I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm very excited for it, and I like that this seems to have a lot more weight than the previous two Ant-Man films, which I
Good.
enjoy.
Yeah.
It's time. And there was a quote from Kevin Feige yesterday that said something like, "It's time for him to be, not on the sidelines or behind the scenes, but take his rightful place up front."
Yeah, I just don't, in any world, I don't see how Ant-Man's gonna be Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really do believe he's gonna just barely escape with his life, and I think that would be a killer way to end the film.
A MODOK change of heart.
I don't know.
Have you heard this theory about how this sets up Kang Dynasties? That
Go ahead.
the theory that's all around, the interwebs right now is that because time is different in the quantum realm, that at the end of this movie, presumably Kang gets out somehow or whatever, and that's the start of Kang Dynasties, Avengers Kang Dynasties. So everything else that's happening between now and 2026 is
26, yeah.
that all that stuff is happening while in this movie, so to speak.
Jeez.
I thought that was interesting.
I'm down. I mean, we all know time works differently in the quantum realm. So that makes sense. And it gives Marvel the window to shove as many projects as they want into that. So I'm excited.
What's your most anticipated of the next couple of phases?
I mean, I'm very excited for Spidey 4. I've seen a lot of rumblings about that. I think that's going to be awesome. Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, can't wait for that. I know that's not obviously part of the phases, but I'm just talking upcoming films. Secret Invasion, I think, is just going to dominate.
I'm excited.
I mean, I'm so pumped for that. I mean, it has a very much a grounded feel, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, as well as Captain America Winter Soldier, which is arguably one of my favorite Marvel films. I think is top 3, maybe top 5 at the worst. But it's I'm very excited about that, and that obviously is going to really set up Secret Wars and everything beyond that. So I mean, we got a lot of really good stuff coming. I'm very excited. And then on the Star Wars side, Ahsoka is my favorite character. I can't wait. I love Rosario Dawson. And then we just got the Mando season 3 trailer. And dude, when they showed Order 66 again, I mean, I think we're gonna find out what really happened. And I think we're gonna get a very clear picture of that. How Grogu got out, how it went down. And I'm stoked. I mean, and I really with Ahsoka specifically, I hope we see Hayden again. And I've heard rumors that he's in it. I'm not sure if it's 100% confirmed, but I believe it is. But to see Clone Wars, I've also heard that there's going to be a younger actress playing Ahsoka for the Clone Wars stuff, which is awesome. So I'm just like, we're about to eat. We are about to eat with the Marvel and Star Wars content coming. Yeah, man, I'm excited.
I got a text from my dad last night after the Mandalorian trailer, and all it said was Jedi. Just so excited.
Yeah.
Will we ever get another Star Wars movie at this point? Because, geez,
there's no rush, man. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a rush. I mean, I would love to see the streaming stuff make its way to theaters. I mean, I would pay stupid money to watch Mando in a theater. I had the opportunity to do Stranger Things Day, where they had part 2 in a theater in their Netflix to dumb theater here in LA, and to watch Stranger Things in a movie theater was just like, I hope they release, season 5 to some extent in theaters, because not only would they make a lot of money, but it would just be the right way to end that series, which I'm not ready for, but whatever.
I could watch Max running away from Vecna on repeat in theaters.
Episode 4 is iconic, man.
The best. Sadie Sink is going to be something moving forward.
Oh yeah, she's talented, man. There's no doubt about it.
Brad, I really appreciate you taking the time today, especially
you too, Joe. Thanks a lot, man.
What people don't realize is that while we just talked for a good 49, 50 minutes, we talked for an hour prior to this as well, just kind of shooting the shit and talking through stuff. So Really appreciate you taking that time. You're a stand-up guy, and
Thanks,
please
man.
let people know where they can find you if they want to follow along.
Yeah, just Brad R. Lambert on social media. But I appreciate you, Joe. You've been nothing but nice and supportive and kind to me over the time that we've known each other. And once again, you don't have to do that, but you are. That's who you are, and that says a lot about you. So I appreciate that, and thanks for wanting to have a conversation. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
Absolutely. All right, Brad. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, man. Take it easy.
Thanks. Yeah.